Hey all, your OS reviews. In this video, we're taking a quick look at the Kika Jet Fan 2. This is manufactured by Feiyu Tech, a company that is perhaps more well known for making gimbals, including rivals to some of the DJI Osmo Pockets, for example, stabilizing your video footage as you're capturing content. But this Kika sub-brand instead uses the fans and motors to serve purposes like acting as a massage gun, or in the case of the Jet Fan 2, again, being just a very high airflow compact fan/vacuum, and design seems to be at the forefront of this particular brand's products, such as, again, the different colors you're able to pick between are all quite vibrant looking for the Jet Fan 2. We have the green one here, but you can also find it in more vibrant shades of red as well as blue. Crafted out of a unibody chunk of aluminum alloy, it feels actually quite sturdy, weighing in around 300 grams, but still quite compact when you are taking it with you when on the go, and it is a stepless speed control dial, allowing you to fine adjust the fan speed from 0 to 100 just by using that dial higher or lower, and this is one of the most powerful compact mini fans on the market. The brushless motors are relatively quiet but can reach up to 100,000 rotations per minute. Just to put things into perspective, one of the other higher end handheld fans on the market is this one from Jesu Life, but gets up to 15,000 rotations. But by contrast, again, the 100,000 rotations per minute on the max speed of this tiny fan is almost 7 to 8 times faster. So on the highest wind mode, I'm not sure this is going to be comfortable anymore as kind of just a pocket fan for cooling yourself down. You would probably want to be at one of the lowest settings there for that cooling effect. But at the higher speeds, it might be more useful for things like filling up air mattresses, outdoor equipment like paddle boards, for instance, and it's reversible, so it can be used for both inflation and also deflation in that vacuum mode if you just flip around the other side of the fan, which is clever. And the vacuuming side also supports a couple of accessories that you can use to attach on if you're trying to clean keyboards, for example, and also some HEPA filters to prevent any allergies from circulating when you're trying to do some cleaning on your desk, for example, or inside of your car. So it's not really just a fan used for, again, cooling yourself down in the summer heat, but also for purposes, again, as an air pump, as a mini vacuum, desk vacuum, things like that. The battery in here claims to last around 3.5 hours of moderate use before you have to recharge it again. So I would say this is kind of an interesting EDC gear type product or everyday carry. Similar to other camping equipment such as a tactical flashlight, for instance, it would fit into a similar type of niche or target audience. Plenty of different use cases. Some of the specs here are just reiterated again on the rear, and we have the green version of the Jet Fan 2 we'll take a closer look at in a moment. Accessories here are inclusive of a USB Type-C charging cable, so we get 2 of those tips total, one which is even more narrow, again for cleaning keyboards or blowing dust off of a camera lens. But aside from that, we also get an external little box with some extra accessories as part of the vacuum kit, which will attach onto the other side as optional kind of modular accessories with some brushes, again, for cleaning off dust. And in this instance, again, the vacuum compartment also houses a small HEPA filter that will prevent any dust from circulating out as you are sucking things in. So something like this actually might be a good alternative to the compressed air dusters, also using a highly concentrated jet of air to clean off kind of keyboards and kind of get dust off of hard to clear areas. But I'd argue that this is perhaps more practical in the long run, since it is just kind of a one-time upfront cost. You can just recharge it again and use it, versus having to purchase additional cans of the duster with the compressed air when it runs out, and possibly increasing waste, because you have to then recycle or throw out the compressed air can, versus this, of course, is something you can cling onto and reuse. As alluded to earlier, it definitely feels very premium and quite hefty, since it's built out of a single chunk of metal alloy, and here's how it stacks up versus a typical sized phone, around 6.5 inches, so easy enough to take with you when on the go. And on the back here is going to be the stepless fan speed adjustment, so you can make it higher versus lower, and also down below here is a simple power on and off key. The bottom just features a USB Type-C port for charging and LED status indication lights, and that's mostly it. Some metal mesh here is also going to be covering up the blades on the inside, looking very clean. That being said, maybe if they added something like a lanyard slot or loop onto the shell in a future gen model, it might make it even nicer if you are carrying it around and using it just as a handheld fan. And this is what it sounds like in the minimum speed. So this is the side where the air is going to flow out of. You can see that little dot. And if we hold up something like a piece of paper, you can see that the wind speed is already effective enough for just cooling you down. But of course, if you go into 100%, it will actually be quite suffocating if you point it at your face because the wind speed is so fast. So for added safety, perhaps in a future generation model, they could add a second button that kind of maybe acts as a lock that you can then press on to activate higher speeds or switch between a few different modes or profiles, something like that. But overall, it definitely does work, and it's not too bad in terms of loudness on some of the earlier modes. At a higher speed though, this is what the sound will be like. So it definitely will get progressively louder. Creating a powerful little jet stream that can easily blow down objects around you if you're not careful. But again, this might be good if you are really trying to get rid of dust particles that are harder to clear out, as well as maybe if you're, again, inflating certain air furniture, you want to fill it up at a faster speed. And by the way, the button can be tapped on once to kind of pause as well as resume the fan while it's still on, whereas a long press will turn the entire thing on or off. Pretty easy to operate. Let's try some of the attachment components. So starting with the boxed accessories for the fan part, this is the smallest nozzle. Fits in pretty securely, but still a lot more compact versus something like compressed gas can, as you can tell there. And now clearing off of some of the examples here, such as this phone camera. Indeed, after just a quick spray, you can tell that pretty much all of the dust on the lens has pretty much dissipated. Now looking a lot cleaner overall, and here's one more example of another digital camera that might be hard to clean with so many grooves and edges. And voila, it definitely looks a lot better. Most of the desk particles have been cleared away using this, which can stand upright, by the way, when you put it onto a desk. So for cleaning surfaces that have more irregular kind of geometric shapes, as well as more sensitive objects like camera lens that you don't really want to touch with your fingers, this can actually be a good option to consider. And now with the vacuum accessory attached onto the suction side, so you can collect the dust instead for you to then empty out into a trash can. It looks a little bit funny because of how long this accessory is, but still cool that it just, again, transforms into just a mini vacuum. So the modularity of all of these attachable parts, I do think makes this model quite unique. Let's do another quick demo here. I've got a box which is just covered in a layer of fine dust. And indeed, we can feel the suction strength there working with the tiny little brushes, and the inside cylinder has now collected a bit of dust. We're left with a completely clean surface now, as you can tell, that it's no longer circulating in the air if we just blew it off. And here's yet another example of a keyboard that is just covered in a layer of fine dust, as you can tell. And there we go. It's looking significantly cleaner, and the softer texture here of the brush can get into smaller cracks and crevices as well. So it is doing a really good job at clearing off, again, hard to reach corners and edges. You can also use it in the car, or even use it as a tiny little maybe bed vacuum if there are just little lint or pieces you want to clear off. A couple of footnotes, though, would be we talked about how if you're using it as a handheld fan, it remains pretty cool in operation. But as a higher speed vacuum or kind of turbo fan in the maximum mode, it will still get a little bit warmer at the handle region if you're using it for longer than, say, 3 to 5 minutes. So I would personally recommend for you to kind of pause it, to kind of let the fans and batteries maybe just have a moment to rest before you continue, for more safely operating the fan, aka pump inside. But if you're using it in the lower mode here, just as a handheld fan with a, again, minimum rotation per minute, you can use it continuously for longer durations, even an hour or so, really without any issues. Just depends on the speed that you're using it in. One final note here is the controls are interesting because when you're using it in the vacuum mode and you're holding it like this instead, obviously the controls are facing towards you and it's pretty intuitive. But when you're using it in the fan mode, where you're kind of blowing it out from this side, as you're holding it like this, actually the controls are facing away from you. So it's a little bit more awkward to adjust things like the fan speed as well as power here. I mean, you can kind of get used to it, but it definitely takes some acclimation. So perhaps if they designed the controls to be on maybe the side, it might have been a little easier to reach regardless of what position you're using this in. I wouldn't say it's crippling, but it is just a slight ergonomic quirk that might be worth considering maybe in a next generation model. But ultimately, I think this one is unique because of A, the super solid build quality, again made out of a single chunk of metal, in addition to the modular accessories, and the fan itself spinning at 100,000 rotations per minute might be the highest one I've ever seen out of a compact handheld fan type product, enabling you to use it not only to stay cool, yes, but also for, again, vacuuming and cleaning purposes. So you can check out more details if you are interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. It's been the pretty versatile, tiny Kika Jet Fan